I thought I had him wrapped around my finger. My husband, my perfect little puppet, always saying, "Yes, dear," always giving in. But the moment I told him, "Do as I say or forget about intimacy," something shifted. He didn't beg. He didn't argue. He just looked at me with those cold, unreadable eyes, and that's when I realized I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. I have always liked being in control. People called me smart, cunning, and someone who always got what she wanted. And that's exactly why I chose Adam, my naive, loyal, and overly accommodating husband. Adam, 31, was the kind of guy who never said no, who always prioritized others over himself. He came from a good family, had a stable job at a big company, no debt, and most importantly, no past relationship baggage. He was a blank canvas, and I could paint whatever picture I wanted. We met at work. He was one of those polite, soft-spoken men who always said thank you and please. The moment I realized he had no ring and no serious dating history, I knew he was the perfect catch. I started small, sitting next to him at lunch, casually bringing him coffee, complimenting his work in just the right way. And slowly, he fell right into my hands. His family saw right through me from the start, especially his mother. She warned him, told him I was too controlling, too manipulative. But Adam, he defended me every single time. "You don't know her like I do, she loves me." Within 6 months, we were engaged. By the 8th month, we were married. His family was shocked. His friends were skeptical. But I didn't care, I got exactly what I wanted. And after the wedding, I made sure everything went exactly according to my plan. I isolated him from his friends, making him believe they were jealous of our marriage. I convinced him to move across town, far from his family's influence. I slowly made sure he relied only on me, for support, for decisions, for everything. He was the perfect husband, obedient, devoted, and most importantly, blind to what I was really doing. While he worked from home, earning a steady income, I enjoyed a life of luxury, shopping with his money, making all the rules, and keeping my secrets. For a long time, I thought I had everything under control. But what I didn't realize was that Adam was changing. He was watching, and the moment I pushed him too far, he was ready. Now, I was about to learn a lesson I never saw coming. At first, everything was perfect, or at least it looked perfect. Adam followed every rule I set, never questioned my decisions, and always tried to make me happy. If I wanted something, he gave it to me. If I was upset, he apologized, even when it wasn't his fault. But then, little cracks started to appear. It began with small things, little moments that felt off. One day, I noticed Adam staring at his phone a little too long, his face blank. When I asked what he was looking at, he just shook his head and put it away. That had never happened before. He always showed me everything. Then he started going out for longer walks, something he never used to do. He claimed he needed fresh air, but why now? Why all of a sudden? At first, I convinced myself it was nothing. He was probably just stressed. But then, I found the first real red flag. I had full access to our bank account. I knew every single transaction. But one day, I checked and saw something strange. Adam had withdrawn $200 in cash. That made no sense. Adam never carried cash. When I asked him about it, he smiled too calmly and said, "Just for emergencies." I should have let it go, but something about the way he said it bothered me. Then the gym visits started. Adam had never been the fitness guy. He worked from home, sat at his desk all day, and had no interest in working out. But suddenly, he started hitting the gym 4 times a week. When I asked him why, he simply said, "I just feel like I need a change." A change. I laughed it off in front of him, but in my head, alarm bells were ringing. I had spent years perfecting him, removing all outside influences, making sure he only depended on me. But now, he was changing. The worst part, he wasn't arguing, wasn't fighting me, he was just different. And that was scarier than anything else. The more I tried to tighten my grip on Adam, the more he started slipping through my fingers. Something was different. He wasn't the same obedient husband who used to check in with me before making any decision. He started staying out longer, coming home later from the gym, and worst of all, he stopped explaining himself. Before, if he was running late, I'd get a long apologetic text. Now, a short, cold, busy talk later. I hated it. One night, I decided to test him. I dressed up in his favorite dress, made his favorite dinner, and turned on the charm, just like I always did when I wanted something from him. Usually, that was all it took. He would melt, tell me how lucky he was, and do whatever I wanted. But this time, something was off. He sat at the table, barely looking at me, barely reacting. He ate in silence, not even commenting on the effort I had put into everything. And then I saw it. His phone buzzed, and he smiled. It was small, barely there, but I saw it. I wasn't the one making him smile anymore. I felt my stomach twist. Who was he texting? I wanted to ask, but I knew I couldn't. If I pushed too hard, he'd realize what I was doing, so instead I played along. Who's that? I asked, keeping my voice light and casual. No one important, he said, slipping his phone into his pocket without looking at me. No one important. I had spent years training him to be mine. I had isolated him, manipulated him, controlled every aspect of his life. And now, someone else was pulling his attention away. No. I wouldn't allow it. That night, I tried to pull him close, to remind him that I was all he needed. But when I leaned in, he hesitated. He hesitated. That had never happened before. Not tonight, he said, stepping back. I stared at him, my heart pounding. He wasn't rejecting me. He was choosing to reject me. Adam had never said no before. That's when I knew I was losing him. And I wasn't about to let that happen. I refused to believe Adam was slipping away from me, not after everything I had built. So I did what I always did. I tightened my control. I made new rules, stricter ones. He needed my permission before going to the gym. He had to send me a picture every time he left the house. I even started checking his phone while he was asleep. But the worst part, he didn't fight me. Before, he would have apologized, tried to make it up to me. But now, he just stared. Cold, calculating, like he was watching a game I didn't know I was playing. And then the final straw. I was checking our joint bank account when I saw it. Half the money was gone. Not spent, transferred. To a new account I didn't recognize. My heart started pounding. I called Adam, barely able to control my voice. Where is our money? I demanded. Adam was silent for a moment. Then, in the calmest voice I had ever heard, he said, I thought we agreed that big purchases needed discussion. He was using my own words against me. That's when I knew. I had lost. But I wasn't done fighting yet. I stormed into the bedroom, already forming my next move. Tears, manipulation, threats, I would do whatever it took to make him bend again. But when I walked in, Adam was sitting at the desk, holding a manila folder. And then, with that same unreadable expression, he slid it across the table. Read it, he said. I grabbed it, my hands shaking as I flipped it open. And my entire world shattered. Inside were screenshots of my texts, bragging to my friends about how I manipulated him. Credit card statements, showing the money I had secretly spent on myself. And worst of all, photos. Pictures of me with someone else. Tyler. My secret side piece. Every lie, every manipulation, every betrayal, all neatly documented. I looked up at Adam, my throat dry. He had known, for months. He had played me the way I had played him. And now, it was game over. I felt my whole body go numb as I stared at the evidence in front of me. This wasn't possible. Adam was supposed to be the naive, sweet husband who never questioned me, the man who would do anything to keep me happy. He wasn't supposed to outsmart me. Desperation kicked in. I had only one card left to play. I forced out a tear, letting my voice shake. Adam, I can explain. But he just shook his head, eyes cold, unmoved. Don't bother, I already know everything. His voice wasn't angry, it wasn't even sad, it was final. He stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled out a packed suitcase. That's when I felt real panic sink in. Wait, where are you going? I reached for his arm, but he stepped back like I was toxic. No, Rebecca, he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. I'm not going anywhere, you are. I blinked, what? Then he handed me another document, divorce papers, already filled out, every signature ready except mine. You're leaving, he repeated, and you're not taking anything with you. I laughed, even though my stomach was twisting. You can't do this. The house is in both our names, the accounts are joint. Not anymore. That's when he pulled out another document, a legal paper showing that he had already transferred the house, the accounts, and even the car out of my reach. It hit me like a truck. While I thought I had been controlling him, he had been silently dismantling everything I built. I lunged for my phone. I needed backup, Tyler. If Adam thought he could kick me out, he had another thing coming. Tyler would take me in. I dialed his number. It rang once, twice, then. This number is no longer in service. My stomach dropped. I checked my messages. The last text I sent to Tyler, unread. I switched to social media. His account was gone. Tyler had ghosted me. I felt sick. You really thought he'd stick around once my money was gone? Adam said, watching me with something almost like amusement. He never cared about you, Rebecca. You were just a convenient ATM. I gritted my teeth, my mind racing. This couldn't be happening. You're making a mistake, Adam, I hissed. Do you really want to ruin our marriage? That was the wrong thing to say. For the first time, I saw real emotion in his eyes. Not anger. Disgust. I'm not the one who ruined this marriage, he said. You did, and now you're finally facing the consequences. I opened my mouth to argue, to try and twist things back in my favor. But before I could say another word, he did something that truly broke me. He turned his back to me and walked away. Like I was nothing. Like I had never mattered. And for the first time in my life, I had no control. I always thought I was the smartest person in the room, that no matter what happened, I'd find a way to win. But as I stood there, clutching the divorce papers, with nowhere to go and no one to call, I realized something I never saw coming. I had lost, completely. Adam didn't yell, he didn't fight, he didn't even hate me, he was just done. And that was worse than anything. The next few weeks were a nightmare. I tried to play the victim, posting online about how my husband had suddenly abandoned me, how I was left with nothing. But Adam had already planned for that too. Before I could even spin my story, his lawyer released screenshots of my texts, credit card statements, and proof of my affair. The internet turned on me in seconds. Even my friends abandoned me. The same women who once called me a genius for how I controlled Adam were now distancing themselves. We had no idea you were like this. Wow, you deserve everything that's happening. You got exactly what was coming to you. Even my own sister refused to take my side. I can't believe I defended you. She uninvited me from her wedding. I tried to call my parents, thinking they'd at least let me stay with them for a while. But my mom's voice was cold. You made your bed, Rebecca, now lie in it. And just like that, I had no one. Adam, on the other hand. He was thriving. He got a promotion, moved into a bigger house, and rekindled old friendships. Even his family, who once doubted him, celebrated his freedom. I saw pictures of him on Instagram, smiling, traveling, hitting the gym, surrounded by people who truly cared about him. And the most humiliating part. He never even looked back. I had spent years manipulating him, controlling him, breaking him down. But in the end, he was the one who won. And I was just another mistake he had left behind. So, what do you think? Did Adam do the right thing by walking away, or do you think he should have given Rebecca another chance? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love shocking, drama-filled stories like this, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, the next story is even crazier. You won't believe what happens next.